Regan Slaymaker for International Boxing News, and this is episode 3 of the journey so far, and I'm joined by 6-0 Cruiserweight prospect Will Hamilton. Will, I mean, how are you down at the IBox today, mate?
Yeah, do you know what? It's the first day back since the fight. Just getting back into the flow of it. Feels good to be back.
Definitely, mate. We're talking about good to be back. I mean, you were just telling me off camera, I mean, that fight was on Queensberry, Frank Warren. I mean, how does it, and against a good fighter in Perry Howe as well, I mean, but how is it to get back under the bright lights, mate?
Yeah, it was good. I mean, I had a few months off. So it was good to get out on a good show. And obviously Frankie Wood was on the show as well, making his debut. So yeah, it was good to be on a Queensberry show and get things rolling now.
Definitely, mate, as well. And obviously, we've spoken before about you had a long time out for injury as well. I mean, was that fight against Perry Howe the start, kind of, to put those injury worries kind of behind you there?
Yeah, I think so, a little bit. Obviously, we had COVID and I had the injury, so things were a bit slow at the beginning. And then I was on the top tier shows. I had a couple of fights on there. And then, yeah, that was kind of, I suppose, the start of coming back now, getting things going. And hopefully we've got a nice, busy future ahead of me.
Definitely, mate, as well. Obviously, one of prospect fights on kind of Queensberry and Frank Warren for the first time. Obviously, the next question is the deal coming? Is it things like that? Obviously, don't say anything that you can't say, but kind of, is it? Are we going to see Will Hamilton on the TV a lot quicker and a lot more than we hoped as well? Yeah,
I think so. I think going forward, hopefully, I'll be on some good big shows on TV, and hopefully, continue to go that way. And I think we'll have some good nights ahead of us.
Definitely, mate. We'll look forward to seeing it as well. Let's go into that fight with Perry Howe. I mean, tough operator. He's been in with a lot of good names as well. Done a very dominant job, if I do say so myself, mate. But how do you reflect on that win against him?
Do you know what? I only had a few weeks' notice on that fight, and I was actually a little bit ill, so preparation weren't great. But I couldn't say no. I had to say yes and go for it. But I see a few clips of Perry before, and I could see he was tricky, a bit slippery, and he does spoil. So I thought, you know what, let's just keep it disciplined and just box and don't get caught into no nonsense. And just get the first one out of the way and then get the ball rolling.
Definitely, mate. It definitely did as well. And obviously, you mentioned Frankie Wood, young Frankie Wood. I mean, I'm glad he was a bit less excited than he was after his debut. He was a bit all over the place after his win. But I mean, great to perform on that show together as well, and great to have both of you have such good performances as well.
Yeah, 100%. Frank's a great kid. He's got a great personality, big personality, and I think as time will go on, and people get to see his personality, I think people will love him. He's brilliant, and it can seriously fight and box. So great future ahead of him.
Definitely as well. And I was just talking about this off camera. I mean, you've had a certain Mark Noble at one of your fights. So as well, I mean, kind of how does, obviously when someone of that well known, I'm massively into football myself. Obviously,
you are.
Yeah, I don't support West Ham though. So apologies, Mark, for even asking this question.
Cut the interview now.
Yeah, just scrap it. But kind of, how does, obviously everyone gets a bit excited when someone like Mark Noble turns up. I mean, how did that kind of work out?
Yeah, I mean, I was training with Mark most days for 18 months. He's a good friend of mine. So, I mean, it's just he'll probably come to the future shows. He's just a great person. And obviously, people love him. Obviously, East London hero, isn't he? So, being at the Brentwood Centre or York or wherever it is, he gets a lot of love.
He definitely does as well. And shout out to you, Mark Noble. I'm a Chelsea fan, but I respect you.
Just a man.
Yeah, definitely. An interview soon on International Boxing News. We'll sort that out. Will. I mean, well, obviously 6-0 now. Obviously, you've had a big break in the sport. Obviously, COVID kind of ruining that. We've spoke about this before. I mean, but that can't have been a nice period of time at all.
Yeah, do you know what? I don't really look at things too much like that anymore. I just it's just life, and you've got to deal with life on life terms, and it is what it is, and you just got to deal with it and get through it, and then come out the other end of it. It's just an obstacle in my life or in my career. So going forward, hopefully there's not many more of them. But there's big things coming.
No, definitely. Is there anything kind of before you turned over pro, kind of, is there anything that's happened during your career that you kind of weren't expecting? Anything that's taken you by surprise? I asked this to Tom Welland, and he said the media was a big thing. He wasn't expecting such a sea of cameras, and I say this ironically with the camera in your face now. He was saying one of those things. Is there anything that kind of took you by surprise when you turned over pro?
I suppose you have a vision of what it's going to be like, and I suppose it is just slightly different to that, but I mean, not massively. Obviously I didn't expect COVID and an injury, so that slowed things down quite a lot. I expected to turn professional and things take off pretty quickly. But obviously because of COVID and the injury, things has slowed down, and I've had to kind of, I suppose with the rehab and stuff like that, I had to take a step back. But as I said before, it's just dealing with life on life terms, and just building my character, and big things are going to be in the future anyway.
Definitely. What without dwelling on it, what was the injury, if you don't mind me asking?
I tore the ligaments in my elbow and fractured my ulnar bone. I believe it's called like a UCL. So it wasn't particularly painful. I don't know how long it was there for, but every single time it was just it's just a pain, really punching. I suppose it got to the point where I couldn't do it couldn't do it. So, and then the layoff was 3-4 months. So it was a big layoff, and then when I come back, it wasn't completely healed. So I had to have another several months. So by the time it was probably like near enough 10 months a year at really boxing.
Definitely. I mean, that's not an injury you can hide, especially when you're boxing as well, punching as well. I mean, Will, obviously we mentioned 6-0 prospect now. Obviously, Cruiserweight Division. I mean, it's flying at the moment. It's fair to say. I mean, there's a lot of good fighters. There's also a lot of dangerous fighters who I don't like, let alone watching on the TV, than thinking about being in the ring with them. But kind of, where would you want to be in your next 6 fights time? Would it be a Southern area title? Obviously, it's held by John Hedges now. But where do you like to be in 6 fights time?
Do you know what? In six fights time, obviously, ideally, I'd like to be 12-0, and I'd like to just be in competitive big fights. I'd like to be just maybe main event at, I don't know, some of your call Cop Box or something like that, being in a competitive fight. More so than anything, more so than saying a certain title or something. It's just being the big fight, main event in London would be great.
Definitely, mate. As well, obviously, you mentioned they're being in big fights. Obviously, everyone wants to be 12-0 if we're talking about the next 6 fights after this. But kind of, obviously, sometimes when fighters come up against fighters, a loss is sort of inevitable. Would you take that? Obviously, no one wants to lose, but would you take that loss if it was in that major fight, obviously, and it kind of boosted your career? It's obviously a little bit of a weird question. No, you don't really want to talk about defeat, but you mentioned that you want to be in those big fights, and sometimes with some fighters, a loss kind of does happen in their career.
I mean, obviously no fire envisions anything like that. It don't even enter the mind. But listen, great fighters before me, like Johnny Nelson, what did he lose? He lost his first couple of fights, didn't he?
First 3?
Yeah.
And then he's Britain's longest reigning world champion, right?
So, I mean, what is a fighter? A fighter is someone, I suppose, that comes up against a bit of controversy and can still continue. It's all great and well winning, but what are you going to do when you're down and out and you've got to get back up and get going again? I mean, listen, it don't enter my mind at all, but I've had harder things in my life than stuff like that, and I got through them, so I'm pretty certain going forward, whatever's in my way, I'll get through.
Definitely, and we've got champions in the gym, right? We've got Sam Noakes, European champion, certain Sky Nicholson, world champion as well. I mean, we've got the gloves all behind us with every single.
Henry Turner, soon to be British champion.
Henry Turner, soon to be British champion. I'm really excited for that fight. I'll tell you, great fight. But kind of, obviously, seeing those guys in the gym, seeing winning titles, does that kind of? I was saying this to Laylee. Does that kind of use them as inspiration? They're your friends more than anything, but do you kind of see it as a motivation, right?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it is quite funny because in some lights you do just see them as who they are. And then I suppose when you're out and about and or you're at boxing shows and then you see the reactions sometimes they get, it's funny. It is inspiration. Both, like all of them, everyone in the gym, Lady, Frankie, everyone. Even though they haven't got titles yet, they're still inspiration. I mean, everyone boosts everyone. It's a good gym and it's good energy. Everyone sticks together and they're powerful together. So 100%, everyone lifts everyone.
They definitely do as well. Did you see in our last interview a clip from when you were talking about this gym got on a no context boxers account? Have you seen this?
I haven't seen it.
I think it's like something along the line. You just said something similar to that, and it was like when you're backing up your mate to a bird in the club. And it was like, yeah, they're great people. Like you can ask. Have you not seen this? I need to send it to me. Because they didn't give us credit. It come off my feed. No. They didn't give us credit at all. But it come up.
Send it to me after.
I will. I mean, have you kind of accepted that? Obviously, with the more interviews you do, sometimes even if you don't think it's meme worthy, it could come up as well.
Yeah, 100%. It's quite funny. The internet's unbelievable, ain't it? Not being funny. It's like, as they say, internet's undefeated. It's unbelievable. It does make me laugh. Some of the comments and stuff is brilliant. You can't listen. And even some of the comments that people get on their posts, you can't be it's light-hearted, ain't it? You can't take stuff too seriously. But yeah, it's brilliant.
No, definitely as well. And I see you in my comments, by the way. And I know it's international boxing news. I see you all on my comments. I read them all.
Show some credit.
Yeah, exactly. Too right as well. I mean, Will. I mean, obviously, smashed through my questions. This is more of a chat than a kind of formal interview. But kind of, have you got any kind of final words for the fans? Maybe eagerly anticipating your return, or anything that you've ever wanted to ask an interviewer? I don't know. It's a bit of a weird ending, this one.
No, I think just listen. It's I've got stuff to show in the sport. I've got a lot to show, and we're not seeing any of it yet. It's just time will tell, and step by step, fight by fight, you'll see what William Hamilton's got to offer.
We definitely will, and we'll see that in a meme page soon as well. Will Hamilton, cheers for that, mate. Thank you very much. Cheers.